Okay, so in my last teaching videos, it actually cut out like 20 minutes of the videos, so I'm just redoing it here. And I'll just share what we went over in the video, what we missed in the recording. So it left off with talking about comfort measures, and we talked about identifying tension spots, and then, oh, I left one of my papers somewhere. Understanding reasons for comfort. So it releases more oxytocin. The oxytocin helps you handle the pain. It helps you feel more comforted, more loved and cared for, which is gonna create a better birth experience in general. And then it's also gonna help your labor go faster, because like the fear, tension, pain cycle, if you are fearful and tense and not feeling the love, oxytocin, it can slow down your labor and make it longer, which I think most of us don't want. So it also just distracts your body, the comfort measures. So just doing, if you think about doing 10 things in a day or the same thing all day, doing 10 things a day helps the time go by faster. And so that's kind of one of the benefits of comfort measures, is you might be doing a lot of different things and trying new things and going back to the other thing, and that's going to help the time go by faster. It's also going to help you cope with the pain better, cope with the contractions, and then it also kind of distracts your body. So for example, like the light touch massage specifically, or the shower tub, it, in easy terms to explain, it uses like other sensors on your body, and so it distracts your body from just feeling it right in here, maybe your lower back. So it just kind of distracts your body using all the sensors in your body instead of just here. And then also the warm water just feels really relaxing usually. The warm water, if you're in the shower or tub, if it's going over your breasts, in the shower you can just let it run over you, or if you're in the tub, you can either take washcloths and get water on them and lay them on your breast, or just take a cup, or your hand or your partner can just scoop water on your breasts too. And while you're relaxing in the tub, if you're doing that, it'll stimulate your nipples, which creates more oxytocin, which will make your contractions stronger usually. And so that can be something instead of Pitocin, if you wanted to try that, because it creates more oxytocin, which causes stronger contractions closer together. And so that can just be a natural progression of labor while you're doing those specific types of comfort measures. And then also the continuous support of a birth doula. Not necessarily a family member. Having support from a family member can be really beneficial. But the statistics show that it's even more of a percentage of less cesareans with specifically a birth doula, because they are not super close to you personally. And so it kind of removes that aspect of it, where maybe you don't see them as like a professional if they're not a trained doula. And then also if it's someone that you don't necessarily want to be vulnerable around, and birth is a very vulnerable thing, and so that can actually slow down your labor also. I had a client who, and I might have shared this already, a client who, she called me, because I'm a birth doula also. She called me, she was in labor, so I headed to her house. When I got there, she was not having contractions. So I just hung out with her, brushed her hair. Her mom had also gotten there right before I got there. And so after a little while, I thought, oh, maybe because her mom is here, that's kind of holding her back. And she had a fine relationship with her mom. So anyways, her mom ended up going downstairs. We stayed upstairs, and once her mom went downstairs, her labor started again. We headed to the hospital maybe an hour and a half later. She had the baby about an hour and a half after we got to the hospital, I believe, somewhere around there. And so just keeping that in mind too for support persons. So having a doula, statistically, you can have 39% less chance of a cesarean and 15% higher chance of a vaginal delivery, which kind of goes hand in hand. But and those percentages are there with a general support person, but it's higher with a birth doula because obviously we're trained, and then it kind of it's not in that area of like you have a friendship relationship or a family relationship with the person, and so that can be more beneficial with a birth doula versus a friend. And I think it's fine to have a family member or friend there. If I would just suggest making sure you let them know that you might change your mind during labor. You're not sure how you're gonna feel, just so they're aware, because you don't know how you're gonna be in labor. And I've had it with clients where their mom is there the whole time and their labor is fast and great and it's fine. So it's just good to be aware of that. Okay, so now we're gonna do a little activity. And when I did this in the video with the couple, I had the dad do this experiment, but I will just do it myself and then talk about what we talked about. So I have this pelvis and baby doll. So I told him to get the baby out of the pelvis. The pelvis does move, just like our bones move during labor. And I told him he can press on the baby just like the contractions would, so on the sides and then down from the top. And so what he did was he opened the pelvis, maybe shook it, moved it around a little bit. You can press in and down, press down. Going sideways doesn't necessarily work as well. And obviously you wouldn't let an actual baby drop, but it's just to get the baby out of the pelvis. So we did that, and it was really awesome because these are some of the things that they came up with as far as positions. So what did they do to get the baby out? This is what we wrote down. He said, they said that he rotated, opened the pelvis, changed positions, tilted the pelvis, and then she mentioned that the way that the pelvis was most of the time was up and down really the whole time. And so she said that it was a standing position. And also like the leaning forward, which is similar to the tilting. And then that squatting would do that, opening up the pelvis, that position there. So these were some specific positions that we came up with based on what he did with the pelvis to get the baby out, just to give a really good visual. So squatting really opens up that pelvis really wide. And then being on your hands and knees keeps the pelvis open. Doing circles with your hips, sitting on the birth ball and doing, figure 8 or circles with your hips. So I like to touch on 3 main things just to keep it simple when it comes to positions. And a lot of them we talked about, but just the 3 main things you want to think about. And usually you can do all 3 of these all at the same time. So it's pretty simple. And with my students, we'll practice positions, and I'll have each couple get in a different position that they think would be beneficial. And then I can tweak it a little bit or give them other ideas or explain to them the details of why the positions that they're in are really beneficial. So the 3 things are gravity, so being more up and down so that baby can come down with gravity naturally instead of being, it's fine to rest if you need to be on your side or your back for a little while. And even if you are, you can still move left to right. You can have your leg with like a peanut ball or pillows in between, so it can open up like one side of your pelvis, and then you flip to the other side. Like if you have the epidural, flip to the other side, put your knee up on the peanut ball, and that can open up both sides of the pelvis too. So even if you can't use gravity, the second thing would be pelvis open. So same idea. If you can't use gravity, you can at least keep your pelvis open, and then movement, which is if you're moving side to side every, say, 30 minutes, if you have the epidural. If you don't, you can do the same thing, all three of those. So if you're standing, say you have your arms around your partner and you're leaning, you can sway, and you're upright, you're moving, you have your feet wide, your knees wide, your feet wide. So you're doing all three of those things. If you are sitting on the birth ball, so you sit on the birth ball, so you're upright, you have your knees wide, and then you're doing the figure eight or just swaying back and forth. If you are on all fours in the bed or on the floor, you can lean over the ball too and sway your hips back and forth, keep your knees wide. If you're on the ball, sometimes it is a little bit more, like the top half of your body is a little bit higher, a little more elevated than your pelvis. So that's also using gravity. And so those are just a few of the things, but just keeping in mind the gravity, the pelvis open, and the movement. And that's all gonna give the space with your pelvis open for baby to move down when it's ready. The movement actually helps the baby's positioning a lot of the time. So sometimes if you're having a long labor, maybe the baby's head is down, but maybe it's tilted slightly like that. So you're contracting, the baby's being pushed down, but it's hitting this bone here, or even if it's not hitting the bone, it just might be coming with this part of the head out instead of this part here. And so the movement of the hips helps move baby's head around. If you're moving your hips or your pelvis all in the same area, the baby's head is going to be moving around because it's in there, and then hopefully it gets straight up and down and then can lock in, and then continue to move down. So so that would be the movement piece of it, and then the gravity is self-explanatory, I think. You're being more upright, so naturally, without you having to do anything really, the pull of gravity is pulling down. And so just thinking about being more upright positions. With the movement also, even if baby is in the right position, it just can help wiggle the baby down a little more, and it helps you cope with contractions better if you're moving more upright. A lot of times, being in bed is one of the most uncomfortable positions that I've found with my doula clients. And that's a lot of times what we think of when we think of being in labor. So that's just something interesting to keep in mind. And when you're in bed, you can't move very much, and you're not very upright, and so maybe that has something to do with it. But like I said, if you are in bed and that's what your situation is, which is totally fine, just flipping back and forth, you can still incorporate some of that movement. And then with the movement also, so even if baby's head is straight up and down, it can move down quicker, kind of wiggling the baby down, and your labor will be shorter, hopefully. Another statistic with doulas, I'm jumping back a little bit, sorry, is 25% shorter labors with a birth doula. And so that's because of the comfort measures they have, the different positions. One thing that as a doula that I recommend or sometimes suggest with my clients, if their labor seems to be taking, not progressing like it should, not like it should, but if it's been progressing well and then it's kind of slowing down, it's like, okay, that could be normal, but maybe there's a reason why. And it could be because the baby's head is tilted a little bit. And so what I might have them do is do lunges for a couple contractions on one side, and then on the other side for a couple contractions, and that opens up one side of the pelvis and then opens up the other side. So if the baby needs room on one side or the other to move down and straighten its head out, it has that room. You can also just put your knee up on the bed or a couch if you're at home, and do that for a few contractions on either side too. And then let's see on here. We talked about words, how words can be helpful. Oops, this is falling down. As part of the relaxation part, the words can be really important, along with creating an environment that is comfortable for you, that's peaceful for you. So that might be having twinkle lights in the room, battery operated twinkle lights with the lights down, having calming music or wave music to help you picture the contractions, or to just remind you of maybe the beach or the ocean as a relaxing place for you. Or having music that has encouraging words in it. Having a focal point as part of your relaxation, so that might be a spot in the ceiling. It might be an ultrasound picture, or a baby's outfit, or pictures of your kids at home. You can also just picture waves as your contractions. Picture your body opening, picture the baby moving down. And then finding empowering words. So I think can be really powerful to have notes from, just like a couple sentences of notes from friends or family that have given birth the way that you want to give birth, no matter what that is, just because you'll be having encouragement from whoever your birth support team is. But sometimes birth lasts a long time, so you might be kind of sick of hearing the same thing from the same people or hearing the same voices. So to have a little bit of a different perspective can really give you that boost you need when you're feeling discouraged. So finding notes, quotes, verses from just ones that you like, and then some words from family and friends, and then maybe things you want to be reminded of during labor, so you write that down because you might not think to tell yourself that in labor, and then your support people can read those to you. And then these are some verbal words that the support people can share with the laboring woman. So it's pain with a purpose, picture the baby moving down. This won't last forever. You're doing it, you're beautiful. Welcome each contraction. You're so strong. Many women around the world are doing this with you. You're not alone. You're going to be so proud of yourself. We will be holding our babies soon, something the partner can say. You're so strong. Picture your body opening. And then breathing. This was the last